Americans face economic reality. Growing concerns about the future of the American dream. Americans face economic reality growing. Concerns about the future of the American dream. This video expresses strong frustrations and anxieties about the current state of life in America, particularly the rising cost of living and the challenges of achieving financial stability. Here's a summary of the key themes. Financial struggles. The author details the high costs of living, including car repairs, rent, groceries, and health care. They lament the difficulty of making ends meet despite working hard and the feeling of constantly treading water financially. Criticism of the American dream. The author challenges the traditional notion of the American dream, arguing that it's no longer attainable for many. They point to the rising costs of housing, education, and healthcare as major obstacles. Difficulty finding employment. The author shares their experience of job searching, highlighting the challenges of finding suitable employment and the frustration of facing rejection. Mental health concerns. The text reveals the author's struggles with depression, anxiety, and feelings of hopelessness. They describe the impact of these struggles on their daily life and their relationships. Social and political commentary. The author expresses concerns about social and political issues, including income inequality, healthcare access, and the impact of inflation on everyday life. They also discuss the challenges faced by younger generations and the limitations of the current economic system. Desire for change. The author expresses a desire for a better future and explores alternative paths, such as moving abroad or pursuing alternative income streams. The text reflects a growing sentiment among many Americans who are struggling to make ends meet and feel disillusioned with the current state of the country. Don't get me wrong, I love being single, and I love living alone.
It's great. It's fantastic. But damn, it's expensive. I just spent $600 on brakes for my car, and that was only for the front ones because I couldn't afford to replace all 4 brakes, axles, and rotors. And then I had to make my car payment. Another $500. So, in just 3 hours, I blew $100. And it wasn't even for something enjoyable or exciting. It's overwhelming. You work and work and work, and it feels like all your effort just goes toward covering basic necessities. Where I live, public transportation isn't a viable option. It's unsafe. Taking the bus here feels like asking for trouble. Plus, my job requires me to have a car since I need to carry a lot of equipment for work. Lugging all that around on public transit just isn't feasible. It's frustrating. Inflation sucks. Living in America sucks. Living alone is both amazing and terrible because you have to shoulder all the expenses yourself. Honestly, I need a partner. Not for love, but just to split the bills. Let me rewrite and organize this content to better convey its key themes. The mounting challenges of American life. Personal stories of economic hardship across the United States. Individuals and families are increasingly voicing their struggles with the rising cost of living and declining economic mobility. Through a collection of personal testimonies, a clear pattern emerges of Americans facing unprecedented financial pressures. Healthcare costs. A farming family was forced to sell their second farm and reduce their cattle herd after facing a $900,000 hospital bill for their premature baby's care. What small-time farmer has $1 million? One relative asked, highlighting the devastating impact of medical expenses on working families. Daily living expenses. I just spent $600 on brakes for my car, then paid my $500 car payment. That's $100 gone in 3 hours, just for basic necessities, shared one single professional. Another noted buying just 10 grocery items cost $80, leaving only $10 in their account. Housing affordability. Young professionals with stable jobs increasingly find home ownership out of reach. As one parent observed, "Why are one-bedroom studio apartments almost $2,000 a month? My son has saved almost every dime for 10 months and still can't afford to live on his own." Wage stagnation. Despite rising costs, many report their incomes haven't kept pace with inflation. A common refrain emerges. You work and work and work just to pay for basic necessities. Even households earning $100,000 annually report living paycheck to paycheck in many areas. Some are seeking alternatives, with increasing numbers considering relocation abroad to countries with lower living costs. Others are exploring remote work and digital entrepreneurship as potential paths forward. The testimonies paint a picture of growing economic pressure on working Americans, challenging long-held notions about upward mobility and financial security through traditional employment. As one participant summed up, "The goalposts keep moving further away. We're all just trying to make it somewhat close to how our parents did." Today, I just went grocery shopping and bought 10 items. It cost me $80. Now, I've got $10 left in my account. For some context, I got laid off from my job a month ago. Even before that, I was applying for jobs for months. I've sent out hundreds of resumes, tailored each one using ChatGPT, and applied to countless remote and on-site positions. I've gone to a few interviews, but nothing has panned out. What's going on with America right now? It's so hard to live here. I'm trying to stay positive and keep applying for jobs. I'm trying to keep showing up, but my bills aren't going to wait for me to figure things out. Inflation, housing costs, healthcare, and education expenses are crushing. Even basic necessities like food and transportation are ridiculously expensive. Honestly, I've been crying for days. My son was recently hospitalized, and my house is a wreck. It's full of mold, the roof leaks, and I can't afford to fix it. Everything feels so heavy, like I'm stuck in quicksand. I'm trying to get my son into a residential facility so I can focus on getting better myself, but the process is agonizingly slow. No one seems to have answers or solutions, and I'm running out of strength. How do you keep going when you have nothing left? How do I keep being the parent my sons need me to be when I'm barely holding on myself? I'm talented. I know I have a lot to offer the world, but I'm just stuck. My heart feels like it's breaking. I'm grieving for everyone who struggles to survive in a system that doesn't value them. I hate that some lives are valued more than others. I remember being 6 years old and hearing a woman talk about racial issues. I didn't fully understand what she was saying, but it hurt my soul. That sensitivity has stayed with me. I feel other people's pain so deeply, and now I'm the one experiencing the suffering. People have tried to help, but it's never enough. I don't want to keep asking for help. It's hard to watch others live happy, carefree lives while I'm drowning. This has been going on for years. I broke down in front of my son yesterday, and I'm furious with myself. I can't always keep it together. I feel so alone, powerless, and at my wits' end. I'm facing impossible decisions, like selling my house. If I sell, I lose the only wealth I've built. But if I don't, I can't afford to fix it. Winter is coming, and I'm dreading the cold. It makes my body ache and my seasonal depression worse. I raised my kids to believe in the work hard and you'll succeed mantra, but the world has changed. My son has a college degree and a full-time job, yet he had to move back in with me. 10 months later, despite saving almost every penny, he still can't afford to move out. My daughter works 6 days a week, 12 hours a day, and managed to buy a house, but her mortgage is double mine. Her lender added $200 in extra costs after she moved in. They're drowning despite doing everything right. And then there's social media, where everyone seems to be living lavishly while hardworking people can't make ends meet. Influencers make tens of thousands for a single post, but people working 40 hours a week can barely afford rent. It's not just frustrating, it's heartbreaking. The middle class is disappearing. It feels like there are only the ultra-wealthy and everyone else. Six-figure incomes used to mean financial stability, but now families making $100,000 a year are struggling to cover necessities. Inflation is outpacing wages, and many Americans are barely scraping by. Healthcare is expensive, student loan debt is crushing, and housing prices are absurd. Even those with good jobs are cutting back and living paycheck to paycheck. I've been seriously considering leaving the U.S. People I know have moved to places like Bali, Thailand, and Colombia, where the cost of living is a fraction of what it is here. Renting a place abroad can cost as little as $200 a month. Healthcare and childcare are more affordable, and the quality of life is often better. Why stay in a country where you're working yourself into the ground just to survive? The American dream has become a scam. Work hard, they said. Go to school, get a degree, buy a house, and you'll be fine. But who can afford a $1.2 million house in San Francisco, or even a $2,000 one-bedroom apartment? People are barely living, let alone thriving. And the cycle of work, eat, sleep, repeat feels like modern-day slavery. I'm not against hard work, but I'm against abuse. The system grinds people down and then discards them. If you want to quit, you have to give 2 weeks' notice, but if the company wants to let you go, you're out immediately. The American dream never really existed, and it's time we admit that. If you're stuck, just know you're not alone. There are options out there. It just might mean redefining your dreams and finding a new path. Whether it's moving abroad, starting a business, or simply reevaluating your priorities, don't give up hope. There's a way out, even if it's not the one you originally envisioned. In Darien, Connecticut, one of the most sought-after and affluent areas in the state, a place where people aspire to live for its prestige and charm, things seem to have spiraled out of control. Let me tell you about a modern farmhouse I noticed on a busy road in this town. The kind of house that's still considered desirable, even though the white facade with black-trimmed windows has become a bit of a cliché. Every day as I drove by it, I saw it was for sale. Today, curiosity got the better of me, so I looked it up. This house, sprawling but not enormous, around 5,000 square feet, sits on less than an acre of land. It's on a bustling road where school buses and cars pass by all day long. There's no serene acreage, no ocean view, no quiet pastoral scene with horses grazing in the distance, just a nice but basic house. The price? $6.7 million. Yes, $6.7 million for a house with no special features, no dreamlike vistas, just location and prestige. It's absurd. What on earth has happened to the world? This moment of sticker shock made me reflect on the larger picture. In this country, touted as the greatest nation in the world, families across the board are struggling to make impossible choices. Consider this. A friend of mine wanted to send her son to a tech camp this summer. It would benefit his education immensely, but doing so would mean sacrificing the family vacation. She had to choose between investing in her child's future and creating memories for her entire family. Another friend, a mother of 3 with a 4th on the way, is worried about her maternity leave. When it ends, she'll have to decide whether to stay home with her kids, tighten their budget, or return to work and spend almost her entire paycheck on daycare. How is this okay? In this richest country, people shouldn't have to choose between their family's well-being and basic survival. Yet so many are forced to do just that. Universal daycare? Non-existent? National health care? Nope. Free college or accessible enrichment programs for kids? Out of reach for most. Something is fundamentally wrong when resources are stretched so thin that people live paycheck to paycheck, unable to afford a better quality of life. A startling statistic from Dave Ramsey on X stated that 78% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. Even worse, 1 in 5 people earning over $100,000 annually are in the same boat. How did we get here? Let me illustrate just how broken the system is with a story my aunt, a realtor, told me. She once helped a farmer buy a second farm to expand his cattle business. It was an honest living, but then tragedy struck. His wife had a complicated pregnancy, resulting in their baby being born prematurely. The baby spent 4 months in the hospital, and the medical bills totaled $900,000, nearly $1 million. To cover the costs, the farmer had to sell his second farm and some of his cattle. He was forced to sacrifice his livelihood just to save his child. Is this the pro-life America we boast about? For many, The dream of owning a home is out of reach unless they inherit one. The reality is grim. Waiting for a family member to pass away just to afford a down payment isn't a dream. It's a nightmare. Meanwhile, basic commodities like gas and groceries keep rising, leaving people scrambling just to make ends meet. The American dream? It's been replaced by a desperate fight to survive. For those clinging to the hope of escaping this vicious cycle, digital marketing might offer a glimmer of light. Some have found success building online businesses, mastering social media, and creating alternative income streams. It's a path that requires dedication and a willingness to learn, but it could be the lifeline that pulls them out of the paycheck-to-paycheck grind. As for me, I'm determined to make a change. I refuse to be part of that 78% next year. If you feel stuck, unsure of your next move, or just tired of struggling, know that there's hope. Whether it's exploring new opportunities or simply sharing your thoughts, let's start a conversation. Together, we can advocate for a future where no one has to choose between living and merely surviving.